food and wine offer that opportunity to us to be able to try new things and step out of our comfort zone. I come from a family of bootleggers. My dad having the same sales territory for 47 years that got passed down to him from my grandfather. The land, the terroir, how they embrace technology. There are so many different climates and microclimates within this small little tiny country. They're utilizing new world, oldest world, all these techniques, but they're really making it their own style. They were exporting wine to the Romans back in the day. Now they're selling wine worldwide. Such a beautiful place. One of the few countries in the world that you can go skiing at the daytime and you could be scuba diving in the Dead Sea at night. Finally getting the attention it deserves. Try something new. Let's go out and expand your palates.
Welcome back to Flavor Report, part of dailyovation.com. Today, once again, we visit the world of wine. We're here with founder and executive vice president of the Israeli Wine Producers Association, Josh Greenstein. Josh, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to talk a little bit about wine and tell some fun stories.
I love that. I love the good stories around wine. So as I begin every conversation, our audience is foodies, wine lovers, cocktail lovers, as far as flavor profile, but also how we actually make the spirit, the wine, the food, etc. So with that said, what is the biggest message that you want to share with our audience today?
My biggest message is there's so many fun and amazing, great products out there. I think listening to the story and has close to the ownership or family that you can get with the brand is usually the best way to understand it. And sometimes you have to try stuff that you don't like and you have to fight through it and get to the thing that you do like. But wine and spirits and it's fun. It's right. It's our opportunity to try new things and branch out and try things we may have never tried before. New grapes, new styles, new this, new that. So I think food and wine offer that opportunity to us to be able to try new things and step out of our comfort zone and listen to a fun story or taste something we've never had before.
So for those who aren't incredibly familiar with the Israeli Wine Producers Association, tell us about what the group is and how you decided to create it and why a wine lover would find it important.
Great. So the IWPA was created almost 15 years ago to simply promote the fact that Israel is making wine, right? So Israel's been in the wine industry for around about 5,000 plus or minus years, right? They've been doing it, and they just got recognized for being good at it. It took a long time. It took many different peoples and many people having conversations with people like me talking about it to find out that Israel even makes wine. So I think it's quite interesting just to see the level of the wine industry is today, and to be able to run around and talk to people about the great wines of Israel through education and through tasting it and showcasing something new that they never have had before.
Now, let's push on that for a second. I'm not sure what to call it a stereotype or a cliche, but when you talk about discovering Israeli wines, is there a fact out there that simply isn't true? Are there one or more things that when someone thinks of it as really wine, it's just not accurate at all?
Yeah, that's probably the biggest misconception of that all wines from Israel are sweet, or all wines were old school, like kiddish wines that we used to, drink. Not so much true, and all the wines that they drank back then weren't necessarily like that either. It's more just overcoming and showcasing the land, the terroir, the what Israel really has to produce, and how they embrace technology within all of that.
Fascinating. And there is so much evolution, especially with technology, in the process of winemaking in the past few years. And so, speaking of few years, how long have you been part of this group that you founded? And I always think it's interesting when I talk to wine people. I'm not sure if you're in the farming side so much, but when you find out what inspired them to get into wine. So can you talk a little bit about your background and how you decided to create this organization?
First of all, I wish I was a farmer. I wish I had dirty boots. I think that's one of the cooler parts of the job. I love dirty boots and walking around and seeing the vineyards and seeing all that. Um, Fifth generation wine business. I come from a family of bootleggers. I come from a family, my dad having the same sales territory for 47 years that got passed down to him from my grandfather. So I come from a large wine family. But Israel, again, for the past 15 years, being able to go out and promote it and talk about it is something amazing. When there was nothing created, there was nothing like this 15 years ago to promote an organization. Many other countries, many other regions of the world had specific consortiums promoting their wine from different areas, even so narrowed down to like a specific town in a city, we're going to represent it. So I felt like Israel deserved someone out there representing them and showcasing the wines for what they really are.
That's so well said. I'm based in Los Angeles, but I spent 2 years in New York right after the pandemic. And what I was amazed by as a wine journalist is how many and how aggressive different regions are marketing to New York, letting people taste the wines and do the pairings. And I mean, honestly, the education behind that. Clearly, you understand it. That's why you created this association. But the power of bringing in winemakers and having them talk through their wines and the pairings, it was incredible experience. So a minute ago, we talked about the Israeli terroir. Obviously, I'm not going to call them competitors, but other regions, France, Italy, Australia, even here in California, how do they all compare to Israel? Tell me about the different terroirs in the regions and how Israel stands out on its own.
So that's one of my favorite things about Israel, to tell you the truth, is that there are so many different climates and microclimates within this small little tiny country. They have dozens of soil types. They have temperature changes. They have higher elevation, lower elevation. They have the lowest point on Earth. They have not the highest, but the lowest point on Earth. They have some very high elevation mountains too throughout the countryside. So it's really the perfect scenario for some of these winemakers who are going out and studying, learning their trade in UC Davis or going to Bordeaux or going to Italy and learning. They're coming back to Israel. They're embracing what is in front of them with a hot climate, but they also have the technology to use drip irrigation. And they're taking what they learned in these other places and bringing it back to Israel and really making it their own. So they're utilizing New World, Old World, Oldest World, all these techniques, but they're really making it their own style of Israeli wine. Some of them utilizing modern day grapes, the Cabernet, the Merlot, all that stuff, but even more so using ancient grapes that they find thousands of years ago. They're trying everything.
I think what I find interesting when I think about regions I visited is neighboring wineries, how different everyone's process is. And based on what you just said, it sounds same here, where if you're studying 8 or 10 different wineries, they're all a different terroir, possibly different processes. And so that's really interesting to learn about how each wine is styled differently from the same region, possibly. And in a minute, we're going to get into some of the actual bottles. But sticking with your association for a second, in 2026, what is happening with Israeli wine at this moment? Have there been a lot of changes recently?
So currently in Israel, what's also happening over there, they're going through a wine boom within the country themselves in the past, 5 to 10 years as well. The amount of money that these wineries are investing back in themselves, putting money into their visitor centers or back into their wine or growing their portfolio has really been one of the bigger booms that the country has seen in the wine industry in thousands of years. Back then, listen, they were exporting wine to the Romans back in the day. Now they're selling wine worldwide, but they're really finally getting the attention that they deserve. So it's really getting much better where they can invest back into themselves and they can really showcase the wines what they want them to be, to be.
That's outstanding. It's interesting. And I'm assuming, and I don't want to blow smoke on you, but I'm assuming it's they're getting the attention because of finally they're getting appropriate promotion.
Yeah, they're getting proper approach. Yes, they're getting it, but they're also the food is getting better and the tourism sense is getting better, and there's so many things that piled up to a point where it's gotten to be a wow thing that the travel industry to Israel at certain times is booming. Is one of the top places to go visit. Doesn't matter what religion you are. Every religion finds a special place within Israel. No matter what religion you are, there's something for you there. And a lot of religions also like wine. So it happens to be that these wineries are all over the country. And yeah, you're touring, and yeah, you're going to do this for the day, and you're doing something holy or spiritual within your own religion. But at the end of the day, sometimes you just want to relax and go out to a meal. And the food and wine scene in Israel has really grown immensely that allows that to happen and lets it keep continuing to grow.
I was about to touch on this and we went there. We definitely don't talk religion and politics on this website at all. It's very much food and wine. But and correct me if I'm wrong here. I guess because Israel location and conceptual, just to keep it vague, I guess it's really difficult not to bring up those two topics when we're talking about Israel in general, therefore Israeli wines. You kind of touched on this, but in case there's more, how have those struggles affected the Israeli wine community?
Oh, that's real, and I stay away from it as well. I stay away from politics as well when talking about wine. But obviously, when you're talking about Israel, it tends to come up more than Napa. But it's tough times over there, right? Like it's not all, it's what you're seeing on TV. Sure, some of it is real, but some of it is also, fluffed up a little bit. There's some stuff going on over there it's hard when your kids are at war or when you have to be in a bomb shelter a certain amount of nights a week, you don't necessarily want to go to a winery or pop a great bottle of wine. You're finding other ways to clear your head. And the restaurant scene and the food scene and the winery scene has definitely been affected by that. Um, but Israel's a strong, strong country, and they overcome very quickly these things. And they also can party in a downtime because they know they need to. They know they need to boost the economy and their own spirits within. So it's always Am Yisrael Chai to the fullest because that's what they need to do to keep themselves going. And wine doesn't help. I mean, it helps. It helps a lot. It helps. It helps sometimes balance stuff out.
Today, we're talking with Josh Greenstein, the founder and executive vice president of the Israeli Wine Producers Association. Israeli wines and kosher wines, is it one and the same? Is it two entirely different concepts? If it is, help a dumb guy like me understand how they do or don't connect.
No, dumb, great question. And kosher is simple, right? Kosher, the best way that I explain kosher is observation, right? It's a person standing in the building somewhere and observing everyone else is working just to make sure that nothing is added to the process to make it bad, to make it not kosher, okay? Not kosher. That's what they're doing. They're trying to make sure that there's nothing added in that's not on this list that they're following. It's actually, you're following the rules. You're just making sure it's all cool. With Israeli wine, a majority of the wineries are kosher that are producing some stuff. There are some that are not though. Have you ever had a Snapple before?
Yes.
See, have you ever had a Hershey bar?
Yes.
Bag of Lay's potato chips?
Yep.
Maybe some dry cereal in the morning? Right. So I could name a list of stuff and all the stuff and you keep kosher, right?
Do I? I do not. I eat.
So all the brands I just named happen to be kosher,
Oh, is that
right?
right?
And you don't realize it when you go
Oh,
by it. But if you were to go into your pantry in your house right now, that more than half the non-perishable stuff in your pantry has probably got some little K or something on it. We
no.
don't even realize it because it doesn't affect most people. But
Right.
that being said, with wine, it's just an observation. It's just making sure that that wine has gone through the process. It's not blessed, it's not holy, it's not special. It's that when you want to make sure you know what you're getting, you know what you're getting.
Interesting. Okay. I've heard the kosher definition before. I just didn't know if it's a blanket statement toward the entire culture or not. And apparently it's not blanket. It's just, it can be, but overwhelmingly the emphasis is always just the observation part. So that
Observation. It's
part.
just making right. So the person's making sure that all the thing, like there's a famous story about Coca-Cola. I think there's three people that knew the recipe. It was the lawyer, the owner, and the rabbi. That was it. Those are the only three people that had the recipe to Coca-Cola because they needed to know what was in it and if it was
Mhm.
kosher or not. Coca-Cola was kosher. The rabbi knew what was in it. It was good to go.
So you've mentioned flavor words like flavor and food. Let's actually talk about some of your favorite bottles. And I'm aware, I mean, you're going to tell us in a second how many wineries are in your association, but I mean, with that many, you can't have necessarily a favorite, or at least you can't publicly talk about your favorite. But what I'd love to go over with you are a couple of your favorites,
Mhm.
followed by what I've always found interesting is bottles that are reasonably priced and they perform better than their price. And then that Lamborghini bottle that's premium, but it's there for a reason. So let's start with, if you don't mind, picking out one or two bottles that you just really enjoy and talking about the winery, the flavor, maybe a food pairing. Tell us about that bottle.
So it's really simple. For the most part, most people that are probably listening to your great stories every day that you're letting people tell through your view, and it's amazing that we're the questions that you're getting from me because I think that it's true. My job isn't necessarily to have a favorite winery. My job is to come back and say, you know what? It's truthful. I'm looking for people just to try something from Israel and try a new region of the world. Because anyone that's listening to this right now most likely has a love or a passion for wine, spirits, and food, right? That they have some connection to that. And I'll bet you most of the people listening probably have never tried a wine from Israel before, right? Or maybe even some of you, all educated, might not have known what Israel made wine. I get that all the time. Like, what do you mean Israel makes wine? Well, it's so what's happening over there now is there's so many new things coming out. So let me say, what's my favorite? Anything from Israel, first of all, is something my favorite. Just something easy, fresh. Personally, what I'm drinking right now, I like fresh, clean white wine. It's getting to be spring outside. The the fresh garlic is starting to come out wild in the woods. It's like that special time of year, it's got that smell in the air. And I kind of want just like a little bit of fresh white wine just to cleanse my palate. So I find myself drinking a lot of fresh white wines this time of year, getting ready for the summer. That's probably my favorite thing that I'm drinking right now from Israel. It's just a fresh, clean white wine.
Outstanding. You're right. It is the time of year for that. Um, can we talk about some reasonably priced wines and some more premium priced? Is that an area you're willing to go
Yeah,
into?
for sure. So, the beauty part of my portfolio, and we talked about mentioning a number before, and I'm going to mention that number now. I personally represent 40 different wineries out of Israel, which is approximately 60% of the total wine from Israel here in the US I'm representing. So I have 40 different wineries that are all over the map. So old wineries, big wineries, new wineries, young wineries, father and son wineries, mother and daughter. Like everyone's doing their part to try to do these amazing stories. And each one to me is amazing. Their story is what makes a difference. Now, from a reasonably priced perspective, it's really cool that we have wines that retail as low as 12 bucks a bottle all the way up. And some of these $12 bottles, and you were talking about some gems in your portfolio, I find that when I find the wine that I like for under 20 bucks, that's my go-to. That's what I'm giving everybody. Like sure, I'll give you a nice bottle too, but like just try this one. This is what's going on. And I think that from Israel perspective, they've got a really good sense of the under $30 bottle of wine they've done really well with. That's kind of where it came from. And then they started to grow with all the higher end stuff. But for right now, they do quite well in all price points. But I'm sure we'll talk about grapes in a little while. But they also have the ability to come out with some of the Mediterranean grapes that we're not even used to at this 12 or $15 price point as well. And that's what I really like to see is when you get these indigenous country grapes at that magic price point, because they're even harder to grow, to tell you the truth. That's to me is when the country's shining, when they can have a great Cabernet at 15 bucks, but they also have a great Argaman or Tebuki at 15 bucks.
Today, we're talking with Josh Greenstein, the founder and executive vice president of the Israeli Wine Producers Association. We're learning about different bottles, the organization, the geography, the region. And as Josh just kind of mentioned a second ago, we're going to talk about varietals. What are some of the more unexpected or less known? Well, let's start with the common ones. We all know Cabernet, we all know certain brands or certain varietals. So are there any surprises as far as the most common grapes that are farmed in Israel?
Well, cab is still king. Cab is king no matter where we go in the world. Like we don't want it to be, but it is,
Mm.
right? When we go to the winery and they have the best cab that we love, 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 but we're really looking forward to their barrel sample of that white wine that they just made fresh and clean because you just want to drink that. But cab is still king. Reds are still king in Israel for the most part. But in the late 1800s, the Rothschild family, right after opening up Chateau Lafite, they came to Israel and they opened their second winery. So their second winery right after opening Chateau Lafite was Carmel Winery in Israel, in Zikron. Okay. And so they brought with them many grapes of the noble grapes, obviously from France. They brought some of those stuff to Israel with them. So prior to that, Israel was growing grapes thousands of years ago, and these were some of these ancient grapes. But what happened throughout the years of different people throughout Israel, certain religions weren't allowed to grow grapes or have wine. So during some of the Crusades, the grapes were picked, thrown away, and only grapes survived were like some of these table grapes or some grapes in really weird places. So years ago, some scientists got together. It was an Israeli scientist and an Arab scientist got together and visited some of these Palestinian communities, and they found some of these ancient grapes. And they said, "Huh, let's look into this." And they traced it back, and they found out that some of these grapes have been around for thousands of years. Tebuki, Marawi, uh, Amdawi, a whole bunch of these other fun, really grapes, and they started producing them, and they really are showing quite well. Um, One more point on that. There's also a grape which I think is the true story of Israel. It's one of my favorite grapes coming out of Israel. It's a grape called Argaman. Okay, so Argaman is its replica itself after a book. Are you familiar with a book called the Bible? Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it. Yeah, yeah. I've even opened it a few times.
Oh, there you go. It's usually the nightstand next to you, right? So the Bible mentions grapes and wine and the crimson color of grapes and wine many, many times throughout this book. It's really a hot topic is wine throughout the Bible. And Israelis years ago decided to, you know what? We're going to try to recreate this grape from the Bible, this grape. They went to laboratories when science is very big in Israel, and they took the Carignan grape and the Suzo, and they genetically made them, and they made a grape called Argamon. And Argaman is this crimson color. It's beautiful and it has all these aspects to it. It's mimicking this grape from the Bible, which is replica of that. And it's really amazing to see that the quality that they got out of it. And some of them are doing a 100% version of it. Some of it are using it for blending, but they're really starting to play with it as this fun thing that's only found in this region, only tiny, tiny part of the world, maybe in 5 or 6 vineyards within that tiny country. And it's just something cool and unique in itself that I find we talk about so many other things so often that when you can find these little unique characteristics of wine or something fun that the country's doing, it's amazing. And then back to the price point, bringing it back to what I said before, they make one of the wineries makes one for $12 a bottle. So you can try something at this entry level price point and still get some at some higher points as well, but they're being produced.
Outstanding. And just follow up one last thing. Last question, we talked about that clean white wine. What's the grape from that bottle?
I'm drinking a Grenache Blanc right now that I love, and I'm also drinking a Tebuki with French Colombard.
Outstanding. So often we think of wine, we think of food, and oftentimes we don't want to just eat, I don't want to say boring, but the same old stuff. So from
Correct.
a food pairing point of view, I know there's a wide range based on which bottle we're drinking today, but are there any Israeli foods we should be trying that maybe we haven't?
Yeah, well, Israel food is one of the hottest topics growing right now. There's so many Mediterranean chefs. There's so many top chefs, Chef Mike Solomonov, Dina Sussman. There's so many top main chefs out right now that are really bringing attention to the food space, which really ties into the wine quite well. And I think that Mediterranean healthy, fresh style of the hummus and the vegetables and all this great healthy stuff. Again, that lighter bodied, chillable red, easy drinking red wine, Grenache Noir and Argamon, something fun and fresh that it's good served, slightly chilled, I think is perfect because they realize that it's hot in Israel finally, that it's okay to drink. You don't just need to drink Cabernet. You can drink other grapes as well. And again, the temperature is very important because to me, when you're in a hot climate like that, I mean, you're in California, you said, and many of us have been to Napa and to some of these wineries in the hot heat of the summer, and it's very tough sometimes to drink that Cabernet. But when you go visit these proper wineries that do it right and they serve it to you at the right temperature, it's much more enjoyable, and you can really know how to enjoy the wine the correct way.
Very well said. And I think you're right that it does get awfully warm. And so we're looking for ways to just calm down and relax. And a nice crisp white wine helps us do that quite a bit. Uh, we're talking so much about the culture of Israel. We're getting excited. What is the best time of year to come over for a food and wine trip? What time of year is most popular and also the best time?
Great question. I've done it. I've done them all. I've done every season and I've done them all. And I find that they're all amazing in their own special way. Um, but the summer is hot, don't get me wrong, but there's nothing better than taking grapes off the vine and spitting the seeds out and back into the vineyard. There's nothing better than that. But the springtime, to me, when it's not too hot, it's not too cold, the flowers are coming through the vineyards, you get a little of that natural ground cover coming up, and you start to see some budding and everything happening. To me, that's the best when all that's going down. But Israel's such a beautiful place. It's one of the few countries in the world that you can go skiing at the daytime and you could be scuba diving in the Dead Sea at night. Like there's a lot of different things that you can do in this country that because it's so small. Um, so it's a beautiful place to visit. I highly recommend it. And there's so many different aspects to it: food, wine, culture, history, technology. And you can float in a body of water that you don't need to do anything in. Is one of my favorites.
We're talking today with Josh Greenstein, the founder and executive vice president of the Israeli Wine Producers Association. Josh, we're talking about all these great wines. The average person, if whether they're in the East Coast, the West Coast, the Midwest, Europe, if they wanted to go to the store today and buy a new Israeli wine and give it a taste, where should we be going? What should we be looking for?
So I love this question, and I give a response that people might not be used to, but I give an interesting response. I tell people that after listening to this great podcast here, we're listening to something amazing. You know what? Most likely, you're probably going to walk into your store or the restaurant, and they might not have a wine from Israel there. But there's a very, very simple way of getting it. Asking the person that you're dealing with, the manager of the restaurant that you go to all the time, the manager at the wine shop all the time that you're in and out of. It's helpful to me. It's helpful to the country of Israel. People making it aware that Israel has wines. We're available in all 50 states. With two or three different distributors in all markets. I have most of my wines available in all states. We're with, some of the bigger shops. We're with Total. We're with Wines.com. We're with Binny's. We're with, in all the chains. We cover them. So you'll find us in some of those chains across the country. But all I can ask is that you walk into your place that you dine the most or you shop the most and tell them that you heard this two guys talking for a little while, and you think Israeli wine would be great in their restaurant.
Perfect. All right, right before we wrap up, we've covered a whole lot in 22 minutes. Is there anything else that you want to share, bring up that we haven't touched on?
No, like I said, I think it's simply the factory of understanding wine and making sure that people are aware that Israel's making wine and making some great wines too. And it's not just me up there screaming it. It's Parker, wine enthusiast, James Suckling, guys like yourself that you get pitched different stories all every day, different things. And it's the fact that Israel's finally getting the attention it deserves after thousands of years of everything. I think it's cool. I think it's cool to see something fun, positive, amazing coming out of this region of the world with so much stuff going on over in this part of the world these days. I think for us to be talking about something fun and amazing from this region, that's the good side of it, right? That's the positive side of it. If we're taking stuff away from it, we're not getting political. We're talking about wine from a country. That's all we're doing. And it's good wine. So that's the important part is that I want to take away from, I want people to take away from this is that try something new. Like you said earlier, let's go out and expand your palates and horizons and learn something. And you know what? When you open a bottle of wine and you're spending a few minutes, go to their website, look them up, hear the story, and retell the story. I think that's just as important. Like I think it's cool when you go to your friend's poker night and you bring a bottle of whiskey with you and you tell the story to your friends about this bottle because you just got turned on to it. It's a cool thing to do. The world is changing a little bit, and maybe we're missing some of that. I joked with someone before. There's no more such thing as happy hour anymore. This is the happy hour when you turn someone on to a new wine or food. That's the version of coolness in the world.
Agreed. You mentioned website a moment ago. What is your association's website, and are you on social media? And if so, which social media?
Instagram, you can do at Israeli Wine, and the website is IWPA.com.
Nice and easy. All right, one last time, a big thank you to Josh Greenstein, the founder and executive vice president of Israeli Wine Producers Association. Josh, thank you so much for your time today. It was great to connect with you.
Thank you for having me, and looking forward to hopefully having a glass of wine with you soon.